Hello. In this video, we are going to look at two tools. One is called the fill bucket and one is called the gradient tool. And they're both in the exact same place in your toolbar, which is just about right in the center of the toolbar. So right here, and you'll see either this little bucket, looks like it's pouring something out, which is paint, or by default, it will actually be on the gradient tool, which will look like that. It's a little square that shifts from black to white at one side. We're going to start with the bucket tool. So click and hold and go to the paint bucket tool. And what the paint bucket tool does is it fills an area of your canvas with a color. And the color that it fills in with is your foreground color, which is the top color here. And we're going to change that because I want something a little more colorful there. Let's go with green. And if you click, it'll fill the entire area. Now, if I have a drawing, let's go to my brush tool and I'll just make a quick drawing here. How about we make, let's make a little tardigrade. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a great tardigrade, everybody. If you don't know what a tardigrade is, they're also called water bears, and they're wonderful little creatures. Look them up. Look up water bear on Google if you haven't looked them up. They're a six-legged creature. Like looks like a little bear wearing a gas mask, and believe it or not, they are real living creatures. This is not like from Dungeons and Dragons or something. This is like a real living creature right here. It looks just like that, believe it or not. Little six-legged bears that are practically invincible. They're really fun to read about. Anyway, getting a little off topic, um, but water bears, also called tardigrades, is their scientific name. Okay, I probably should have made that water bear in a separate layer, but that's okay. We can work with it like this. And let's check out what the paint bucket tool does now. I'm going to make my water bear um, this color. Okay, so paint bucket, I clicked on the paint bucket again. I selected a color that's different than the one I have, and I'm going to click inside the water bear that I drew. And notice that the way that I drew it is it's completely closed off. So there's a line that goes all the way around and it's sealed off, connects back to the beginning. And I'm going to click, and you can see that the paint bucket tool fills in inside the shape. It did not fill in this little area here because that's closed off by that circle. So the paint bucket tool fills in areas of your image. And again, we could change the background color this way also because it's all one layer. I can use the paint bucket and click here, and the same thing, it'll change just here and not affect the color inside because it can't spill in. Imagine that you're pouring the paint out of this little bucket and it's filling in the area and the lines are blocking it from passing through. You could zoom in here and we could change this color in the mouth. And the place that it drops, so here it's pretty important to know this because it's such a small area. The place that it drops is on the tip of the arrow. So you can see there's a little arrow above the paint bucket. So where the arrow is pointing is where the color is dropped, not actually where the paint in the little icon is being poured. Okay. So that's the paint bucket tool. If you take that into an image, let's apply that to an image here. Let's look up outer space. Get a new image here. Image. Click on tools and get that large size image. Okay, and we've got some outer space stuff going on here. This one's cool. I'm going to copy this image and go back to Photoshop. Just make a new file there and paste it. Okay, so now if I go ahead and drop this yellow up in the sky here, for example, you can see that it filled in most of the black area of outer space, but not all of it. So how do we know how much it's going to kind of spill into? You can see again, it'll do just about the same amount. If I click down here, it fills in areas. Seems almost random there. And what it does is it's selecting from the point that you click, it's selecting similar tones, and it kind of spills into similar tones. For example, if I click in this black area here, it'll fill in the dark areas right there, but it won't, spill any farther than that. So I'm going to undo that, which is Command Z is to undo. And let's look at how we control how much it will spill into. So if we go to our tool options bar up here, we will find a setting called tolerance. And by default, that'll be set to 32. If we set that higher, for example, 100, hit enter and click here, you can see it fills in a lot more than before when we had it set to 32. And you can play around with it if you want it to fill in a certain area. For example, the black outer space sky here. We could play around with the amount until we get close. And it looks like we're not going to get it perfect in this case because there's this subtle shift here in the atmosphere. And also it's kind of dark here, so it spills into there. So it doesn't seem to me like there's going to be any perfect number that will fill in just the black, but it'll get close. And then you could fill in the rest manually. Yeah, so, and you can try really big numbers and see what they do. The highest number you can fill in is 255 because that's how many tones there are in Photoshop. Every color has 255 tones. And if you click at this point, it'll just fill in everything because there are only 255 tones. So that means everything. Okay, so yeah, you can play around with that and see and have fun with it. You could also set it really low, for example, 10, and just click in lots of different areas and see how you can really affect the image. You could choose different colors. And you can see that you can start doing some cool things with this tool. And your imagination's the limit, however you want to play around with it, you can, I'm sure, discover lots of fun ways to use this tool. With drawing, it's really effective for filling in large, areas rather than manually coloring in an area. You can fill it in all at once. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do the gradient tool in the next video because this one's getting a little long. And I'll see you in that video. Have fun with the paint bucket tool. Try it out a little bit, and I'll see you in the video to show you the gradient tool.